Quiet power of inner mastery. In a world that constantly pulls us in 1,000 directions through noise, distraction, pressure, and chaos, how do we stay centered? How do we remain sharp when everything feels uncertain? That's what today's video is all about. We're going to explore 9 Stoic principles that have stood the test of time, not because they're flashy, but because they're timeless. These are the same inner disciplines used by warriors, philosophers, and even emperors to stay calm, focused, and mentally unshakable, no matter what the outside world threw at them. You won't need to change your personality. You won't need to speak louder or hustle harder. What you need is something far more rare: inner clarity, emotional discipline, and quiet strength. And the Stoics understood this better than anyone. They knew that the real battlefield is internal, not the meeting room, not the traffic jam, not your social feed, but your response to it all, your ability to remain calm in the storm, to observe without getting swept away, and to choose your reaction with intention rather than impulse. This isn't about being cold or emotionless. It's about being deeply grounded. When the world expects you to panic, you pause. When others lash out, you choose grace. When noise surrounds you, you create stillness. That's the silent power of Stoicism. This video isn't just a list of abstract ideas. It's a practical guide for how to think better, live deeper, and lead yourself through uncertainty with wisdom, not just emotion. Because let's face it, life doesn't get easier. But with the right mindset, you get stronger. So if you're someone who's tired of feeling reactive, scattered, or overwhelmed, stick with me. What you'll learn here won't just shift how you show up to the world. It will change the way you see yourself. Let's begin this quiet revolution, not by shouting louder, but by thinking wiser. Welcome to the 9 Stoic Keys that will help you outsmart the chaos, and most importantly, outsmart yourself. 1. Don't talk about challenges. Strength in silence. Let me ask you a quiet but important question. When life pushes you into a corner, do you announce your pain, or do you rise with quiet strength? In today's world, we've grown used to broadcasting our struggles. Social media gives us a platform to vent, to complain, to seek sympathy for every inconvenience. And while there's nothing wrong with seeking support, there's a fine line between being vulnerable and being dependent on validation. Now contrast that with the Stoic way. The ancient Stoics didn't avoid struggle. They welcomed it, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they understood that challenge is the gateway to transformation. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the Roman Empire and fought battles both outside and within, wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." He didn't just say it, he lived it. Think about that for a moment. The obstacle you're facing right now, the financial stress, the relationship pain, the inner doubt, it's not a punishment. It's an opportunity, a doorway. But here's the catch. You only walk through it if you stop talking about it long enough to take action. You see, when you stop complaining, you start conserving energy. And that energy, it gets redirected into growth, into solutions, into becoming the kind of person who moves quietly but leaves an impact everywhere they go. Because silence is not emptiness, it's power under control. And in a world that can't stop talking, those who remain composed stand out. It doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't need to be seen feeling. You process in private. You heal in movement. You let your strength whisper through your choices. There's something incredibly magnetic about that. You've seen it before. A person who doesn't try to prove anything, who simply handles life as it comes. No drama, no desperate cries for attention, just steady progress. That's the energy of someone who has turned pain into purpose. And here's the truth most people miss. You don't have to tell the world what you're going through for it to matter. Your resilience doesn't need applause to be real. You can suffer and grow without ever posting about it. So when the weight gets heavy, when life feels unfair, breathe. Don't react. Don't explain. Don't perform. Just begin. Take one small step forward in silence. Because the people who do the inner work without fanfare or expectation, they're the ones who build the kind of character that can't be shaken. And in time, the world notices. Not because you told them, but because you became someone worth noticing. And that is the power of quiet resilience. 2. Don't reveal your secrets. The power of privacy. Have you ever met someone who didn't say much, but somehow you couldn't stop thinking about them? There's a quiet strength in privacy, a kind of magnetic pull that doesn't demand attention, but commands it. And in a world that constantly tells us to open up, share everything, be transparent, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is hold something back. Now, don't get me wrong, connection matters. We're wired for it, but there's a difference between authentic sharing and impulsive oversharing. One builds trust, the other leaks energy. You see, your inner world is sacred. Your thoughts, your dreams, your battles, your process. These are not things to toss into the world like confetti. They are jewels. And jewels don't belong on the sidewalk. They belong in a safe place, offered only to those who've proven they won't trample them. Privacy isn't secrecy, it's intentionality. It means you don't speak just to fill silence. You speak when your words matter. It means you don't hand out pieces of your soul to people who haven't earned the right to hold them. The Stoics deeply understood this. They taught self-control not just in action, but in speech. They believed in knowing your mind so well that you didn't need to expose it to feel valid. In fact, the less you need to explain yourself to others, the more you are becoming someone worth listening to. Think about it. What happens when someone tells you everything about their life within the first 5 minutes of meeting them? It doesn't build trust. It creates discomfort. It feels rushed, forced, ungrounded. But when someone speaks with selectivity, when they pause before responding, when they share slowly with calm and purpose, suddenly every word feels meaningful. Their silence becomes a kind of language. And here's the truth. Power grows in quiet places. Oversharing drains that power. It's like leaving the door to your inner world wide open in a storm. Every opinion, every judgment, every careless comment blows through and knocks things out of place. But when you hold your center, when you share only what aligns with your integrity, you become grounded, centered, strong. So the next time you're tempted to explain everything, to tell the world what you're going through, to spill your plans before they've even formed, pause, ask yourself, why am I sharing this? Do I need to? Is this moment, this person, truly worthy of this part of me? Not everything sacred needs an audience. Not every truth needs a stage. Keep something for yourself, your vision, your healing, your process, your depth. Let it simmer in silence. Let it grow in strength. Because when the time comes to reveal who you are, it won't be with words. It'll be through the quiet confidence you carry, the stillness that says more than noise ever could. That is the power of privacy. 3. Don't talk about your achievements. Let actions speak. Let me ask you something. When was the last time someone impressed you not by what they said, but simply by how they moved through the world? That's the kind of presence we're talking about here. In a culture obsessed with self-promotion, where social media rewards bragging and every little win gets broadcasted, it's easy to forget this timeless truth. Real strength doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself, quietly, consistently, and without the need for applause. Boasting might feel good in the moment. It scratches that itch for recognition, but it rarely inspires respect. Why? Because noise fades, but quiet results. They echo. People may not remember what you said about yourself, but they'll never forget how you made them feel or the excellence they witnessed with their own eyes. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic teachers, said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." In other words, don't talk about how disciplined you are. Live with discipline. Don't say you're wise. Make wise decisions. Let your life do the talking. Think of the people you admire most, the ones who lead teams, guide families, build legacies. Do they walk into rooms announcing their greatness? Or do they let their character, their consistency, their quiet impact speak for them? This is the paradox of humility. The less you try to impress people, the more they feel drawn to you. Because there's a rare kind of confidence in someone who doesn't need validation to feel valuable. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine two people at a gathering. One keeps telling everyone about their job title, their accolades, their accomplishments. The other barely talks about themselves. But when they speak, it's thoughtful. When they listen, they're present. When someone needs help, they step up without making it about them. Who would you remember? Who would you trust? That's the power of letting your actions do the talking. It's not about playing small, it's about playing true. When you build something meaningful, live with discipline, and keep your integrity intact, people notice. You don't have to remind them. In fact, the more quietly you walk, the more weight your steps carry. And here's what's even more beautiful. Living this way shifts your focus from being admired to being aligned. You stop performing for the crowd and start showing up for your values. You're no longer chasing significance. You're becoming it. So the next time you're tempted to prove your worth, to highlight your resume, to drop your accomplishments into the conversation, pause. Ask yourself, what matters more? Being seen talking about it, or being known for it without saying a word? Remember, silence doesn't mean weakness. In the Stoic path, silence is discipline, and discipline, when practiced daily, becomes irresistible. 4. Strategic silence, guard your plans. Here's a thought you don't hear often in today's world. Keep your plans to yourself. In an age where we're encouraged to speak it into existence or manifest it by declaring it out loud, this might sound counterintuitive, but there's a quiet wisdom, an ancient power, in moving in silence. You see, when we talk about our goals too much, something subtle but important happens. The brain gets a dopamine hit just from sharing the idea, as if we've already achieved it. And in that rush of premature celebration, our motivation begins to fade. The urgency, the hunger, the sacred tension that drives real action softens. That's why the Stoics practiced something different. They didn't announce their intentions to the world. They lived them, quietly, consistently, with purpose. Because silence doesn't mean inaction, it means alignment, focus, power that's being built, not broadcast. Let me ask you this. Have you ever told someone about a goal only to find that weeks later you lost momentum? You planned, you talked, maybe even bought a few tools or joined a group, but the actual work never quite took off? That's not laziness. That's the trap of leaking energy. When you speak too soon, especially about dreams that haven't fully formed yet, you expose them to doubt, distraction, even subtle sabotage. Not always from others, sometimes from your own mind. Talking too early invites overthinking. Silence, on the other hand, invites execution. The Stoic approach? Act, don't announce. Think of a seed buried deep in soil. It doesn't scream its intention to become a tree. It grows in darkness, quietly. Day by day, it gathers strength beneath the surface, until one day it breaks through with undeniable presence. That's you. That's your dream. You don't need to post about it, explain it, or seek validation for it. You just need to build it. And when the time is right, when your results speak for themselves, people will notice. They always do. But here's the kicker. By then, you won't need their attention because you'll already be walking in your purpose, not chasing praise. So if you have a goal, a dream, a plan that matters, protect it. Not because it's fragile, but because it's sacred. Treat it like a fire in its early stages. Guard it from wind, from noise, from too many eyes. Let it grow into something unstoppable before you ever feel the need to explain it. In a noisy world, silence is a superpower. Use it well. Build quietly. Move intentionally. And let your life speak when the time comes. Because real power doesn't need to be announced. It's revealed by results. 5. Don't gossip. Focus on your own growth. Let me ask you something simple but powerful. When was the last time gossip made you feel truly proud of yourself? Chances are it didn't. It might have felt like connection in the moment, a shared laugh or a subtle judgment. But afterward, you're left with a strange residue, a kind of emotional pollution. That's what gossip does. It contaminates not just how we see others, but how we carry ourselves. The Stoics had no patience for gossip. Why? Because their eyes were turned inward. Their focus was on self-mastery, not monitoring everyone else's imperfections. Marcus Aurelius said it best. Be tolerant with others, strict with yourself. Gossip is a cheap substitute for real growth. It gives the illusion of insight without requiring any effort. It distracts us from the hard work of self-improvement by inviting us into the soft comfort of criticism. And over time, it weakens us, not just morally, but mentally. You can't sharpen your character while dulling your focus on things that don't matter. High-value individuals don't waste time tearing others down. They're too busy building themselves up. Imagine you're climbing a mountain. Each step requires effort, discipline, awareness. Now imagine stopping every few minutes just to comment on how someone else is climbing, or worse, mocking their stumbles. You wouldn't get very far, would you? That's the trap of gossip. It keeps you stuck at base camp, talking about the view, while others are actually rising. So what's the alternative? Be the example, not the critic. Choose to be the kind of person who redirects the conversation toward growth. When others talk behind someone's back, you step forward and bring the focus back to principles, not personalities. This doesn't mean you have to be self-righteous or preachy. It just means you quietly refuse to take part in emotional pollution. Your energy is better spent sharpening your mind, strengthening your discipline, and building a life that speaks for itself. And here's the real shift. When you stop gossiping, something strange and beautiful happens. You become more grounded, more trustworthy, more respected. People notice when you don't speak badly of others. It signals integrity. It creates a silent aura of strength around you. Because here's the truth. Anyone can gossip. It takes no talent, no courage, no vision. But it takes serious inner power to rise above it. So the next time you find yourself tempted to chime in on someone else's flaws, ask yourself, is this helping me grow? Is this how I want to show up in the world? The Stoic path is quiet. It doesn't involve noise, judgment, or cheap validation. It's a daily decision to focus on the one person you can truly control, yourself. Let others talk. You build. 6. Don't talk about good deeds. Give without expectation. Here's something to think about. If a good deed is only done to be seen, is it still truly good? In today's world, where every action seems to be followed by a post, a like, or a shout out, choosing to do something kind without broadcasting it has become a rare and powerful act. But the Stoics knew this long before social media. They believed that real virtue doesn't need an audience. It doesn't wait for applause. It simply is. Seneca once said, "The reward for a good deed is to have done it." Let that sink in. Not a thank you, not recognition, not a gold star. The act itself is the reward. Why? Because giving without expectation cultivates the kind of strength that isn't flashy, but unshakable. It anchors your self-worth internally, not in someone else's reaction. When you give freely, whether that's your time, your kindness, your resources, you're telling the world, I am full and I choose to share. Let's be honest. Most of us have, at one point or another, done something good and hoped someone would notice. That's human. But the Stoic path asks us to aim higher, to give, help, support, not because it boosts our image, but because it builds our character. There's something sacred about helping someone quietly, holding the door for a stranger, sending a kind message, offering support when no one's watching. These are not just small acts. They're silent proofs of who you really are. And here's what happens over time. Those quiet actions begin to shape your identity, not as someone who performs goodness, but as someone who embodies it. You become the person others instinctively trust, not because you said you're generous, but because you live it consistently without show. Now let me ask you something. Would you still be kind if no one ever knew? Would you still give if there was no praise, no thank you, no spotlight? That's the test. And if your answer is yes, you've already begun walking the Stoic path. There's a beautiful kind of power in invisible kindness. It doesn't inflate your ego. It strengthens your soul. It doesn't demand credit. It quietly builds credibility. And it doesn't just help others. It liberates you from needing external validation. In a world full of noise, be the person who gives in silence. In a culture obsessed with appearances, let your character speak louder than your posts. Do good, walk away, and smile, not because someone noticed, but because you did the right thing, even when no one was looking. That's Stoic virtue. That's strength. And that's the kind of person who doesn't just inspire others. They become unforgettable. 7. Guard your weaknesses. Move in silence. Let's get real for a second. We all have weaknesses, every single one of us. Insecurities, past wounds, quiet battles no one sees. But here's the truth. Not every struggle needs to be shared. Not every scar needs to be shown. In a culture that often encourages oversharing in the name of authenticity, the Stoic approach offers a different path, one of quiet resilience. They believe that true strength isn't found in exposing your flaws to everyone. It's found in facing them privately and doing the inner work without a spotlight. It's tempting to reveal our struggles early in relationships or new environments, hoping for connection or empathy. But premature vulnerability can sometimes backfire. It opens the door to judgment, misunderstanding, or, worse, manipulation. Now let me be clear, vulnerability is a strength, but it becomes a strategic strength when it's shared with discernment, with people who've earned your trust, not with everyone in the room. Think of your inner world like a house under renovation. You don't invite the whole neighborhood inside when the walls are still down and the wires are exposed. You work quietly. You build privately. You reveal only when the foundation is solid. The same goes for emotional growth. Instead of broadcasting your insecurities, work on them in silence. Journal, reflect, heal. And when progress shows, let it be seen through your energy, not your explanations. There's something powerful about the person who transforms quietly. No announcement, no drama, just a subtle shift in how they carry themselves. One day they show up with clearer eyes, calmer energy, and an unshakable presence. And the world takes notice without even knowing why. So ask yourself this: are you sharing for connection or for approval? Are you revealing your struggles to be understood or because you haven't yet learned how to hold them with strength? The Stoics would remind us, resilience grows in silence. It's in the quiet moments, away from praise or pity, that real change happens, when no one is watching. When you decide to take full responsibility, not for how others see you, but for how you rise from what you carry. Guarding your weaknesses doesn't mean denying them. It means honoring the process of your own becoming, protecting the sacred work you're doing behind the scenes, and giving yourself the space to grow without performance, without pressure. Because when you move in silence, you move with power. When you grow privately, you emerge with peace. And when you carry your pain wisely, you don't just inspire others, you lead them without saying a word. So be kind to yourself. Be disciplined in your healing. And remember, your transformation doesn't need to be seen to be real. Let's keep walking quietly, steadily, with purpose. 8. Keep dreams private. Let your actions surprise them. There's something sacred about a dream that lives quietly in your heart, not because you're hiding it, but because you're protecting it. You see, the moment we speak our dreams out loud, especially before they've taken shape, we risk exposing them to something fragile: external influence, doubt, envy, unsolicited opinions, even subtle discouragement from those who don't see what we see yet. And that's the danger. Not every dream can survive being talked about too soon. Have you ever shared an exciting idea with someone, only to be met with indifference? Or worse, skepticism? That tiny shift in energy, that subtle, "are you sure?" It plants seeds of hesitation where there once was fire. Suddenly, you're second-guessing yourself, not because your dream changed, but because someone else's fear walked into the room. The Stoics believed in building from the inside out, letting clarity grow before inviting the world to see. They understood that the deepest growth happens in stillness, not in noise, not in applause. So here's a new way to think about it. Let your dream be like a tree seed. It needs soil, water, and time. Not a stage, not a spotlight. Because if you dig it up too soon to show everyone, it dies before it ever roots. Privacy isn't secrecy, it's wisdom. When you keep your vision close, you give it the chance to grow stronger than your need for validation. You give yourself the room to fail, experiment, adjust, without the pressure of proving anything to anyone. And when the time is right, when your work has matured and your actions are aligned, you don't need to explain. People will see it. They'll feel it. They'll witness your growth without you ever needing to announce it. This is what silent ambition looks like. It doesn't chase attention. It doesn't broadcast every move. It moves in the shadows, fueled by consistency, and lets the results speak volumes. So ask yourself, are you nurturing your dream or performing it for the crowd? Because the most powerful people you know often didn't tell anyone what they were building. They just showed up one day, ready, refined, and undeniable. Keep your dreams where they can breathe. Let your actions do the talking. And when the world finally sees you rise, they'll think it happened overnight. But you'll know it was built quietly all along. Walk gently, dream boldly, and surprise them, not with your words, but with your becoming. 9. Embrace solitude, strengthen your inner core. Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you were truly alone? Not just physically, but mentally quiet? No music in the background, no scrolling, no notifications, just you and your own thoughts. Most people run from solitude. They fill every moment with noise, as if silence might reveal something they're not ready to face. But here's the paradox. What most fear is exactly what builds the strongest version of us. Solitude isn't loneliness. It's not isolation. It's not the absence of people. It's the presence of self. And in that presence, something powerful begins to take shape. Clarity, self-trust, inner strength. The Stoics knew this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, wrote nightly reflections in solitude, not because he needed validation, but because he understood that true power isn't in conquering others, but in mastering oneself. You see, the world will always try to pull you in 100 directions. Expectations, opinions, noise. But if you don't anchor yourself in stillness, you'll be swept away by every current. Solitude is where you find that anchor. It's where you confront your doubts without distraction. It's where you refine your thoughts without interruption. And it's where you rebuild your energy, not from external praise, but from internal alignment. Some of the most emotionally unshakable people you'll ever meet are those who have made peace with solitude. They don't need constant input. They don't panic when it's quiet. They grow in that quiet. Think of solitude like weight training for the mind. At first, it's uncomfortable. You feel restless, exposed, even unsure. But over time, the discomfort turns into discipline, then into clarity, then into strength. A strength that isn't loud, but it's unmistakable. So if you want to sharpen your emotional resilience, your focus, your sense of purpose, don't always look outward. Instead, create space to go inward. Make solitude a practice, not a punishment. Here's a simple challenge. Each day, spend just 10 minutes with no distractions, no phone, no music, no multitasking. Just sit, think, observe, reflect. You'll be surprised how loud your inner voice becomes when the outer world goes quiet. Because here's the truth. People who are never alone are often never fully themselves. Solitude is the soil where self-awareness grows. It's where mental toughness is forged. And it's the space where you stop performing and start becoming. So don't fear the silence. Embrace it, return to it, and trust that within it lies the deepest source of your power. You don't have to shout to be strong. You just have to be still enough to hear the strength rising from within. The Stoic way to outsmart others. Let's take a moment to zoom out. You've just walked through 9 Stoic habits that may seem subtle, but make no mistake, they are transformative. Not flashy, not loud, but deeply, undeniably powerful. And here's the truth. This isn't about manipulation. This is about mastery. Mastery over your impulses, over your emotions, over your ego. Because the Stoic doesn't chase attention. They embody intention. They don't brag. They act. They don't seek to dominate. They seek to understand. And in doing so, they win. Quietly. In today's world, it's easy to mistake noise for strength. We live in a time where people shout their opinions, post every detail of their lives, and measure their worth by how much attention they can grab. But attention isn't the same as respect, Noise isn't the same as wisdom. You want to truly outsmart others. Don't talk louder, live better. Let your life be your argument. Let your discipline speak for you. Let your stillness shake the room. Because real power, it doesn't scream. It doesn't perform. It simply is. And people feel it even before they understand it. Think of the people who've left the deepest impressions on you. Were they the ones constantly talking, or the ones who move with quiet conviction, steady purpose, and calm presence? As the Stoic saying goes, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. And when you do, you stop needing to prove yourself, because your very presence does that for you. So here's your invitation. Don't rush to be seen. Don't hustle to be heard. Instead, focus on becoming someone so centered, so disciplined, so inwardly strong that you don't need to chase recognition. You attract it by who you are when no one's watching. Let people wonder why you're calm when others panic. Let them ask why you move differently, speak less, but carry more weight. Let them sense there's something deeper about you, even if they can't put it into words. That's the Stoic advantage. That's how you quietly rise above. So here's the final reminder. True power is silent. True wisdom doesn't demand attention. It earns respect. And if you're willing to live by these 9 principles, not just know them, you won't just stand out. You'll stand tall, quietly, powerfully, unshakably.